step in the journey is a sacred step indeed. Just put one foot in front of the other, and you'll have everything you need.
Literally so much we could do.
Okay, we pressed the button. Hi, everyone. Here we
We're
are.
here.
This is our fifth talk, our fifth chat. And we're just going to take some deep breaths together. And so I was just telling Ocean that I'm going through a period where there's a lot of loneliness. And even though I have a husband and I have friends, my husband works full time and my other housemates are not here. So I have all this time every day to just like be with myself. And while some people would just relish that and be like, oh, that's wonderful. I actually, that's the hardest thing in the world for me because I tend to use my connection to the beings in my life as kind of a, I don't know, a handicap in a way, because being alone is a very hard thing for me. And I believe that the journey, I'll call it the journey of hermitage. I believe the journey of hermitage, like in the old times, we would climb a mountain and go live in a cave away from the world, maybe fast. We'd have some food maybe, but we'd really physically journey to the mountaintop or journey to the cave. And we would live as ascetics in this total hermitage so that we could find God. And, you know, this was a common thing in past lives to do this. Well, we're now in a time where there's a hermitage happening while we're still in life. There can just be this, a part of us has journeyed to a mountaintop and is inside a cave and is prostrate before the temple of heaven, saying, I will do nothing in this world until I have God flowing through my body. And that's where I am right now. And it's funny because the conscious mind can stop and go, but I need to teach a class, but I gotta create something, but I should go out and do something. Well, why don't I call a friend? Well, I should, to try to make it go away, that sense of incredible loneliness. But on some level, it's all on purpose. There is a part of the self that has journeyed to that mountaintop and is standing before that gate. And the conscious self has to get on board with the larger part of self that has already journeyed into the hermitage.
Do you think there's some aspects within yourself, like specific gene keys or specific other little karmas, astrology aspects, or extraterrestrial frequencies that maybe
Yes,
influence you even more than just being a human? I think we're all going through it, but
absolutely.
yeah, what are some of them? I'm curious.
Okay, so what I think is happening is that the 12th stargate in Lyra, which leads back to the ascended Earth, is penetrating through the time-space continuum and calling me home. because I wake up weeping, saying the name, Ara Matena, which is the name of the 12th Stargate in Lyra. And I actually wrote a song to Ara Matena this morning on the piano, just saying, Ara Matena, you're calling me home. And so what I'm thinking is that in the time fields, here on Earth, we're in this linear time where the past is behind us and the future's in front of us. But in the larger time fields at the metagalactic level, there's no time. It's all now. And so there can be these bleed throughs in different lifetimes. And I think right now we're going through a very strong bleed through into paradisical future Earth. Because I think the cosmic mother principle, which we could look at that poster that I have right behind me, the cosmic mother principle, let's try to point at it, is calling her children home. And Andromeda is where the ascended Earth, as the avatar matrix Earth in Andromeda, which we access through Ara Matena, is directly calling the Earth home right now. And so wow. I, as an ambassador to Andromeda, from Andromeda, I'm like standing in front of the gate saying, it's time to go home. There's nowhere else to go but home. And so I think we're being re-embraced back into this higher universal time matrix right now. And that's directly affecting the whole human race, the Earth herself, and me as a microcosm, an ambassador from paradisical Earth through Andromeda. And that's why I have to be alone right now, because everything else doesn't matter. Really, nothing else matters but returning to the Christos blueprint. And I wanted to tell you that the Christos blueprint is the masculine and feminine. It includes both.
Christos Sophia, right?
Yeah, but the
even
name
within
that
Christos.
They call it the reclamation of the Christos mission. And yeah, Christos Sophia is when we say the masculine and feminine, but the Christos mission just represents the template of the sacred marriage restored. And so yeah, it's just been super heartbreaking. There's a lot of agony last night, today, just agony beyond anything. I can only say that there's this melancholia as Ara Matena in that 12th Lyran Stargate, which is the home of paradisical avatar Earth.
Agony is such a good word. I'm getting some bibliomancy out of it, coming from the Greek agon, which is like the contests that they would have in the big Colosseum with like the person and the lion or whatever. And agony is like denotes mental anguish all when one is alone. And yet the irony is that when you describe your inner marriage, there's at least two aspects within you, and so there's multiplicity.
And there's been incredible damage to the mitochondria that prevents the masculine and the feminine from being in communion. The negative aliens.
Could you talk about mitochondria? Yeah, that's very interesting.
The mitochondria is where cellular respiration happens. We think of mitochondria as the mother principle of the whole body. It is the mitochondria. It's the mother. And the mitochondrial messenger RNA DNA is the site of the massacre. It's how the negative aliens created the fallen human, is through damaging the mitochondria. So basically, I'm processing the heartbreak of broken mitochondria, which blocks Earth from Andromeda, and blocks the lover from the beloved, and blocks protein synthesis beyond the third dimension. So I come in with the full memory of 12th dimensional consciousness, and it's severed all the way to 3D. There's no communion. That, and it's really, really important to understand that protein synthesis, like if we go back to our biology class, right? The amino acids come together and they create the protein. And the proteins code for the architecture. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if you break the code so that it can't create itself, you break the embodiment of the soul. The soul stops its embodiment at the 3D level because there's no architecture. So I grieve for the dismembered architecture, for the lack of a Stargate back home, for the lack of the communion of the sacred marriage, for the lack of the light body to dance with itself in ecstatic communion as it did in our divine angelic feline form that we were in the Lyran, the royal house of Lyra in first creation, is an emerald order feline angelic human, which is my home.
Wow.
It's my home. And
Emerald Order Feline Angelic Human.
those are the first. That's the first angelic humans. It's the emerald order. And I mean, it's all these visions, these dreams. And then I have all the information from Lisa Renee. In fact, I should tell people, you can go to Ascension Glossary. If anything I'm saying makes you feel homesick, go to ascensionglossary.com and put in Aramatena, put in Emerald Sun, put in Lyra, put in Aquafarian genetics from Andromeda. You'll get all of the information just cascading through the Ascension Glossary.
And what if people feel like quibbly about it, oh, like that resonates somewhat with me, but like, gosh darn it, I've never looked into extraterrestrials type things. What are these things, So
Well,
what would you say?
we all have different jobs. I think I was talking about the elephant and all the different parts of the elephant. A lot of people are just resonating in love, and they're bringing more and more love through their bodies and in their lives. And the truth is, you don't have to know about any of this stuff. If you're living in love and you're following your heart and you're feeling your feelings and you're connecting to the goodness within you and without, then you're on the perfect path. It's just those of us who have more complex missions, who are the architects of creation, and the ambassadors to the Christos mission, we have to know all this stuff. Because we're out there in the field fighting these battles. We're dealing with despair that would cause most people to just check out. We're dealing with layers and levels of the memory of the massacre of our bodies and our beings in so many dimensions at once that it's like, the sci-fi movie on acid just to live through. And so you have to understand what's going on or you'll go crazy. But if you're not one of those people, you don't have to understand. But say you have an affinity, like I say the word Aramatena, and you go, oh, go look it up and just see what it brings up in you. Or I say the word Lyra, or some people say Lyra, and you imagine the angelic felines, and some part of you goes, oh, I remember, go look that up. And just, we can be free to follow where our heart leads us. Anything you have an affinity for is probably a part of you that's been separated from your consciousness, right? And so you can draw it back in and say, oh, the Syrian dolphins, the Andromedan cetacean, the original cetaceans came from Andromeda, the dolphins and the whales. And we came as a group to breathe the sound light, the sound codes into the waters of the oceans of Earth that began life on planet Earth. So as I say that, if that makes you joyful, go look up Aquafarian races, because those are the cetaceans from Andromeda. And I'm an Aquafairy human hybrid. I actually came in with 2 genetic codes for 2 different species.
Okay, so what does it mean to, I'm, as you see, I'm like kind of playing into this role and
Yeah,
enjoying it.
he's asking me
What does
questions.
it mean
Yeah.
to come in with DNA threads? You know, like, well, what does that mean? I thought I had like my mom's mitochondrions, my dad's Y chromosomes or X chromosome, or and the
Yeah,
DNA is the
you
DNA.
know, it's so the interspecies DNA merge, we talked about it with the Nephilim project. Everybody has partial interspecies merge going on. Everybody
Hmm.
who's in a human body. We're all regressive reptilians merged with um, the humanoid. So we've got humanoid, we've got reptilian, and then we've got extraterrestrial and angelic. So we've got all, everybody has all those. That is what it is to be a human on planet Earth. It's just they're not awake. Those strands are not really awake because when you dumb it down at the third dimensional level and you block protein synthesis, you put a ceiling on all of the higher DNA coming into consciousness. See, the light body. So you think about if the factory that codes, that makes the protein synthesis, that makes the proteins that build the house is destroyed, you can't build an architecture. So all these higher frequencies can't be in consciousness. They're in the quote junk DNA,
Hmm.
right? They've been
That's
thrown out of
interesting.
consciousness.
The junk DNA, that's
Yeah,
kind of a dualistic trigger for me
absolutely. We
in
should
the
call it
classical sense.
potentiated potential. You know, it's
Hmm.
the potential
You
DNA.
know, whenever you hear those little terminologies that are totally normified,
Junk,
that have these judgments on them,
junk. Yeah,
or when
right.
people say, I never wake up after 7 a.m., and then I kind of think, never? You know, so junk DNA makes me feel very curious. Huh. It's
Potentialized.
potentialized DNA.
Yeah, it's DNA that hasn't been remembered into the tube torus of conscious awareness because the negative aliens thrashed it. They shattered the code so that code is not in consciousness. Because
I
if it
also feel like,
were,
yeah,
everybody'd be walking around knowing their angelic identity, their extraterrestrial, everybody'd be walking through walls. I mean, everybody'd
yeah,
be totally awake to their full multidimensional capacity. And if that
yeah,
happened, the beings that use the human race to siphon power into their dark grids, they'd be completely out of business. They stay in business by keeping us in a fear-based reality. That's how they stay in business. So ultimately, joy is our identity. Joy is our authentic expression as Christos beings. We are angelic humans of celebration, communion, just festival of celebration. That's the nature of the divine blueprint. And so I think the brokenheartedness is when the consciousness that has the memory, which I do, of the full festival is stuck in hell on broken glass alone in the dark night, going, can somebody please turn on the lights? Please bring it
hmm
back. Please
hmm
bring back my home matrix. Please bring it back now. And so I think right now there is a huge invocation from the earth into Andromeda and from Andromeda to the earth. And Sirius also. The whole, Sirius B carries the blueprints of the divine human and they're downloading those into us, right? And then Lyra's communicating with us. We've got so much of our higher self trying to draw us back home. And so the lower self can feel this incredible melancholy, especially if it's an ambassador that's meant to be bringing that homecoming in. The lower self is going to be standing at that shore, looking out to that horizon with the broken heart. Like, where are you? I hear you calling me beyond time and space. Come in already. you know,
Inviting transformative energy. And also, it's kind of like feelings are very important because when anybody feels anything, it's very important because it's an intuitive message from the higher self. And also, anytime a clairvoyant empath or extreme sport light worker feels something, feels pain, it's not like, ooh, it's like that is a serious download of information too. Like maybe, well, I don't know about serious versus playful, but
Serious is very serious.
serious. No,
The
I'm just
Pleiadians are much more playful than the
playful.
Syrians, man. The Syrians are so serious. My Syrian guardian council galactic self is so serious. And then my
Hmm.
Pleiadian self is so playful. It's what a difference.
But
It's
what
a
do you
big
think about that? Like, there's so much going on. We definitely feel there's moments of pain and discomfort and separation consciousness, and yet there seems to me this dualistic. There's like a multiple dimensions because part of it is a personal responsibility to be with it,
yeah.
and the other part of it is like to teach from that place because I feel like our higher self knows that we face outward and talk to people a lot. And so if we go through something, perhaps there's this opportunity to teach from that place or share from
Yeah.
that place.
I think I think the most important thing is to just know that the emotional body like is the gateway to our higher consciousness, and there's a definite balance to it, because the emotional body has a an addictive quality to it, like the poor me, the victim, the sadness. Like if you think about it, on a soul level, there's something kind of deliciously sweet in the nectar of intense emotion. And so there is this addictive quality where I don't know why I exactly am saying this. There's a balance point between fully allowing emotions to clear, right, and crying, and sometimes that it's definitely involves crying, and but there's also this point where you have to like snap yourself out of it in a way and really witness
Hmm.
it and like navigate through this like big storm, right? There's a tidal wave, but you have to try to get a witness so that so that you're not denying the emotion, but you're also not wallowing in it, right? Because there's a definite balance point, and sometimes I get stuck in the wallow and get magnetized into the fascination with the agony. And you have to like keep going. You have to like stay on your boat, like don't jump into the water. It may look really really exciting. Oh, how horrific can I feel? Let's try that. No, at a certain point you're like, no, I'm on my boat. I'm going through some gnarly emotions. I am not my emotions. Excuse me. It's like I am not my emotions, but at the same time I have to allow them or they can't complete themselves. Because emotions have a life, they're like life forms. They start out as seeds, and then they blossom, and then they blossom into full flower, and then they die. And if we don't let them go through that full cycle, they stay trapped in us, and they keep our vibration down, so that we can't manifest anything above that traumatic level. We stay in a fear-based state, we stay in a despair-based state. So we do need to allow them to come up and be released. But at the same time, we don't want to follow them down to hell and just milk them and feed all the negative entities that feed off of negative emotion. We want to like, okay, I feel you, you're here, this is painful, and then get back, make sure you're on your bicycle or on your ship, whatever navigation is your vehicle, right? You're separate, but you're fully allowing them. And there's a mastery to this emotional body processing. And that's what Avatar is about. Well, we were going to talk about
We were
Avatar.
talking about Avatar, yeah.
And I don't know if Avatar training is still out there. If you looked it up, I don't even know if they're still doing it. But Avatar training. I was going to talk to Ocean about this anyway, and here we are talking about the blossoming, the life cycle of emotions, right? So in Avatar, you align with the life cycle of the emotion, right? You say, okay, so if you're feeling like intense, like despair, you say a positive affirmation, like you say, I'm happy to be me. And you just like, and you say that as if you're anchoring it like a pillar in your body. And then everything that comes up, that's the primary is, I'm happy to be me. And any emotion that comes up, like, I'm lonely, I don't like my life, that's a secondary. They call that a secondary. And so as soon as you're anchoring in the primary, secondaries are going to start spilling over. It's like a big enema. You're bringing in the clear light, and all the
All
fecal
the
matter is flying off of you.
yeah.
So it's like you're bringing in the truth. The truth is, as Christos beings, we're totally joy. We are joy. That's what we are. We are the living embodiment of joy. That's what we are. So if you say, I'm happy to be me, that's truth. But then all the programming that says, I hate my life, I don't know what my job is, everybody else gets a job and I don't have a job, and how am I ever going to find a way, and there's nothing and nobody wants me, and all that lie. That's all lie. But let me do this. The special effects down here are really good. And if you go through this programming in childhood, man, it feels
Yeah.
real. Like this is my movie. But in Avatar, you're taking the divine blueprint affirmations and you are putting those into your body, and you're letting everything else come out. So say some kind of misery starts surfacing, you align with that misery. You say, okay, you're my creation, let's do misery. And you do it on purpose. You don't resist it. You say, bring it on, misery. It's a lot like TAT, right? You're saying, this happened to me. This feeling happened to me. God allowed this experience to happen through my body. And who am I to resist it? Let's let it happen. And then all the lifetimes where you've been murdered or rejected or whatever the emotion you're processing are going to pass before your eyes. You're like, oh shit, I'm being abandoned as a pioneer. Oh great, I'm being killed in England in the 1600s. Oh great, I'm being burned as a witch and cast out. All of those traumatic frequency imprints are going to go through you as you're clearing that, saying, I am loved and safe. It's safe to be alive. Boom, you're being burned as a witch, you're being killed off, you're being murdered in the electric wars, you're being killed in Atlantis. It's all going to come.
Oh, Atlantis. I remember that one really well.
Yeah. And so that's
Yes.
avatar training. That's what it is. You align with the emotion and you let it blossom to its fullness. And then you go back to the statement, I'm happy to be me. I'm at
How do
one
you
with
find
all.
that core statement? Is that
They give it
some
to
kind of
us.
affirmation? Yeah, it's a seed
They give
that
it to
you.
us. Yeah. And there's
If
other
what if you don't
ones.
feel it? I mean, do you have to pick one that you really
No,
that
you don't feel it because
you don't feel it
it's not
potentially?
that you're feeling it when you start out. Not at all.
Yeah.
You're feeling everything but that.
But
But
maybe you want to feel it. Like I would like to be happy to be me. Like that would be a good. I want to feel that
yeah,
way.
right.
Stuff
But
like that.
what the point is, when everything of the lie is gone, all there is I'm happy to be me. That's
Hmm.
the truth. That's
Hmm.
your truth. You are the embodiment of joy personified. That is our truth as divine humans. And so the
Oh.
more we come to resonate with that as our embodiment, the closer we are to the truth. And so all the experiences of not being that have to clear out of us until all there's left is the the ecstatic bliss of being alive.
There's so many
Believe me, I'm
beautiful.
not there yet. I'm
No, no.
I'm definitely coursing through it, cascading through an enema of massive negative beliefs and negative experiences. I do have glimpses, right? There's glimpses.
Yeah, there's this beautiful thing that I heard once from a tantric Trichoshavist Dzogchen teacher, and she was saying like, you know, there's clinical depression and that's clinical depression, but also like if somebody's on some sort of path, they're on some sort of practice, they're setting the mind up to potentially access some of these really sweet and amazing states of awareness. So if you sort of work with it, whatever the practice is, and then you access something, and then that experience, that cool experience, lucid dream or download of, and it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then the next day, there's other days that those things don't happen, and then there's a real nadir in the wave, and it's not,
Nadir.
yeah, it's not necessarily clinical depression. It could just be an ascension, just a ascension pain. I'm not sure with the terminology, but
Yeah.
there's that process, and we all, I mean, I don't know anybody that doesn't go there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's life is the being a human in a body on a planet. We have such a full spectrum of emotions, and it's, you know, it's like being on the waves of the ocean. We're going to have the high crests, and then we're going to have the low points, and then the high points and the low points, and ultimately the emotional body matures to a certain calm neutrality, and there's, it's more and more extreme emotions can actually come into the being, and you just don't respond as much. You kind of stay in the center of it all, but that takes years to start really being in the center point.
Mm-hmm.
And
The 0 point, as you once said,
yeah,
right?
the 0 point. Yep. So yeah, it's kind of
Wow.
a big topic, this. Yes.
Definitely can't, we can't get to the bottom of it just today.
Yep.
But would it be
Yes,
nice to
love.
have a little song,
Yeah,
a
sure.
little piece?
Oh, look, the
Would you like to
sunlight's
play?
coming through my skylight.
That's
Woo!
gorgeous. Oh, it's coming from up above.
Yeah. So maybe I will sing Spirit Come Home, because Spirit Come Home is a song that came downloading. You know, some of my songs I have to, like, I sit down and write them, and I'm like, okay, I need a children's song about rainbows, and I have to write it out for the kids, you know, or I feel like, oh wait, I got the words to this, but I don't have the music, or I've got the music to this, and these chords are really beautiful, but I need some words. This song is one of those songs that just came, and it came when I was in the natural world, and the natural world is so much like the place where our oneness with everything is is remembered. It's in nature. I mean, it's literally, even though we live on an earth that has been in a fallen matrix, everything in the natural world is in a fallen matrix in that it lives and it dies. It's not immortal. But it's the closest to the oneness, is this beautiful,
Mm.
beautiful nature. And so I was out in nature, and I was actually feeling lonely when I wrote it. I was actually in a state of like broken-hearted loneliness, like I'm always in as an ambassador back to Aramatena.
Mm-hmm.
And I was calling out, please come to me. Please, please show me my oneness with you. And the earth started to answer me. The wind started to blow through me and touch my cheek. And I could feel this liquid plasma starlight on my cheeks through the wind. And the song just started writing. And it's really like this love affair with the oneness field and how it was interacting with me on that day. Okay, so here, it's kind of a long song, but here we go. Spirit of beauty, Spirit of light, I am Spirit, come home. Leave your burdens and your fears. Come home to me. Spirit, come home into my arms. Spirit, come home. I can feel you in the wind. I can feel you in the air. Every leaf, every beautiful green, peaceful green, piece of your light is shining alive. Oh, Spirit, in the wind, oh, caress my cheeks with your loving grace. Oh, blow your ecstasy breeze across my face. I am a citizen of the land of joy. I am a citizen of the oneness queendom. I walk down the path to find you there, and you take my hand and magic rises up in the air, and the wind swells and mother's cloak it dances, and the chimes they ring, and the spirit romances. Oh, you play my soul with your fingers of heaven. You touch my heart glass in every part. Oh, I am you infinitely. You are me, interchanging fluidly. Here's the cello solo. It's so beautiful. I've got a video of this on my page. I'll put the link in the description. The cello rises up like the amino acids to make love in the protein synthesis of the sacred marriage. As lover and beloved join as one and wrap around each other, and the seventh higher heavens open up straight into our ascended earth. And your colors of light, they shines like a golden sun. Oh, Spirit, Spirit, I am here. You called out my name, and now I stand with you. Oh, Spirit, Spirit, I am home. Oh, Spirit, nowhere left to roam, nowhere to roam. I am home, nowhere to roam. I am. I'm looking at, is that a rune? You're muted.
That song was so beautiful. It spoke to me in the light language and gave me that rune.
Yeah,
It was such a beautiful song.
that's so cool. You made a rune. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
So,
song came in 2015,
hmm.
and the second Transharmonic Universe, which is hosting our Ascension, started actually kind of bleeding through into this universe and anchoring its template, and the whole natural world like rose up in this exquisite love affair with my heart and its heart. And
Your
yeah,
heart's heart.
September 28th, 2015.
9/28/15.
I believe that was the date. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for, that's kind of a long song, but it does hold that vibration. That's cool that you made a rune. You know, I have my puppet here, and I brought him. I was thinking, I have like 10 puppets, but
Maybe next time you can show
he wants
me.
to say
Oh, he wants to say
hi.
hi. Well, I can sign off.
Absolutely.
Hi,
You don't have
friend.
to sign up. You could stay on. And yeah, my name is Rufus. I'm
Rufus.
one of Sarah's puppets. As long
That's
as
so
she feeds me
charming.
my favorite dog biscuits, I stay with the show.
Beautiful.
Oh, he says, I love you. I don't need my dog biscuits. But
Aw.
I do like them. And someday I could meet Balthazar. I've heard lots
Balthasar loves
about
making
him.
friends. Yeah, he's dreaming right now. He's preparing for
Balthazar, you
dream
are
yoga class.
dreaming. Dream. Dream,
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 dream.
dream, dream.
Ah,
All right, my dear. Well, I got a jet. I have to jet.
okay.
But thank you so, so much for our time, as always. Until next
Thank you,
time.
sweetie. Yeah, it was kind of
Yeah.
a lonely, painful talk,
Oh,
but
man.
some days are like that. Yeah,
Some
some
days are
lives are
diamonds.
like that. Ah.
Some days are diamonds.
At
Yeah,
the God
beautiful.
level, we don't really have any preference for loneliness or joy. It's all this great palette of emotion. But at the human level, we definitely would prefer
Communication. Well,
communion
this
and love.
I feel that we communed, and as a solitary yogi living in a cottage at the face of a mountain in the borderlands between Vermont and New York, the hermit in me bows to the hermit in you.
Oh, sweetheart. Thank you for being my fellow hermit.
Yeah, that's how it is, man. That's just
All
how it
right,
is.
sweetie.
All right, later.
Later, love.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So, yeah, a lot of these concepts that I'm talking about, just look it up on ascensionglossary.com, and you can pretty much enter any of these topics and you'll get a whole bunch of information. It's really an amazing resource. And my song Spirit Come Home, I will put a link to the audio, which is on Bandcamp, and the video, which is on my YouTube page. So I'll put both of those in the link to this video. And yep. Bye. Have a beautiful day.